Hey everybody, it's Rob Folia, Folia Properties at Keller Williams Realty, and it is Friday, March 1st. You know what that means. It's the first of the month, and it's time to look at some updated market statistics. I'm excited to jump right in. I think 2 months into the year, we're going to start to see a picture of what 2024 really might be in the real estate world. Obviously, so many things can change, and if you're seeing this at all in the future, reach out to me with questions because I'm more than happy to dive into your specific scenario. If you're curious about your city, your county, whatever the case might be, we can look at it together. But without further ado, let's jump right in and let's just continue to look at what's been the topic of the moment for the last year or 2 years, really, if not a little bit more, and that is interest rates. I've got the Freddie Mac mortgage interest rate trend pulled up here, and you can see at the top. I mean, you can see that basically, rates have gone up to almost 7%. I think when you're talking with most lenders out there, because there's different things that go into account with this number. Most lenders out there are saying that rates are in the sevens. They're past this low or this high sixes number that you're seeing on Freddie Mac, and you can see that's because they're trending. I mean, gosh, just looking back to here, we'll just go back to February 1st since today's March 1st. February 1st, we were at 6.63%. 6.94% here for the week that was ending yesterday. So basically 4 weeks down the road. They've gone up a third of a point, basically, right in there. That's pretty substantial in for 1 month. That does impact some things. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to my videos, there's a stat that I have gone over ad nauseum. So I'm not going to go over it too much here, but I'll just share it with you. And that's for every 1% that interest rates go up, it decreases a buyer's affordability by 10%. Easy, simple math. If you're looking at a $500,000 mortgage at, say, 6%, that's going to be the same principal and interest payment as a $450,000 mortgage at 7%. So again, 1% increase in rates, 10% decrease in affordability. So it's important to bring that up because when we're seeing rates jump up here at a pretty substantial rate, I mean, we'll see if they continue to climb as the weeks go on. But this third of a percent basically that hurt somebody's affordability by about 3 to 4%. That's pretty substantial when home prices still have not dropped. We have not seen a negative trend in home prices really yet. And when months of supply is still indicating a seller's market, or at least on the seller's side of a balanced market. It's substantial to bring that up. So let's keep going though. Let's talk and look at some market trends now that we see that rates are climbing this year. The last 30 days they've gone up a little bit. Let's look at some market trends. And what I've got pulled up here is Davidson County, the months of supply. I've got the trend line going back 3 years. I like this just mainly because 3 years ago, that was the height of or I guess maybe 2 years ago was the peak of that strongest sellers market we ever saw. But I mean, 3 years ago we were seeing that too. I mean, the reality was we had such a shortage of homes for sale 2 to 3 years ago, and rates were still so low. I mean, gosh, I'll just go back to look at the 3 year trend line. You can see, I mean, 22 is when they started to climb. That's really the peak frenzied market right here. I think people were worried that rates were going to get as high as they did into 22. And rates were just so low in 21 and into 22 that months of supply, you can see it's gone up the last 3 years. For February, for Davidson County, 4.3 months of supply. That's a slight decrease from January. From February last year, we were at 3.8 months of supply. So we're up about half a month of supply. Months of supply, if again, if you're new to the channel, months of supply is just saying if no other home were to ever hit the market, how long would it take the buying market to buy every home that's out there based on how quickly homes are selling? It's just a stat that kind of helps us measure demand as it equates to supply. And when we're looking at something like this and we see that months of supply from a 12-month trend line has gone up half a month, that does kind of make me kind of scratch my head a little bit and go, okay, is this something to be concerned about? When I pull up other counties as well, I mean, here, I'll just pull up a couple other that are right around here, and we'll let the report run. But for Davidson County, Wilson County, Rutherford County, Sumner County as well, I mean, you can see they're all in this, I mean, with Rutherford being the lowest at 3 months of supply, the other three are right here above 4 months. Very, very similar. Now, if we look back to February of last year, you can see Rutherford County is basically flat with where it was last year. The other ones, though, were below 4. They're anywhere from 3.6 to 3.8, it looks like. Now they're in the low fours. So months of supply is definitely trending upward from what we're seeing. I mean, when I see 3 out of 4 counties doing that, that's showing me that this is a kind of a relatively universal trend for our area. That does get me, I don't want to say concerned, but it is something to be wary of, because what we've been talking about when it comes to interest rates is that if you look back here, let's go with the 3-year trend. I've been kind of beating that drum for a little while now, that last year people were kind of, rates were normalizing to people. People were saying, "Hey, I'm gonna have to buy a home, and it's gonna be in the 6%." And gosh, granted, it got into the eights for some people last year. But people were, high rates were getting normal for people, is what I'm trying to get at. Um, I'm part of me wonders when I see months of supply rising like this, meaning there's just, homes are taking longer to sell. There's fewer buyers per home compared to what we've seen. This kind of makes me wonder, hey, has the buying public had enough of the high interest rates compared to what we've seen? We've almost been at an equal tipping point between supply and demand over the last little bit. I mean, supply has demand's been stronger than supply. Supply has been in a shortage here recently over the last couple of years. And so I guess my point of what I'm trying to get at is that the tipping point has kind of been, which way we're going to see the market flex. Is it going to become a buyer's market because homes are just going to take a lot longer to sell because the market shifts and because interest rates go up and demand drops? Or is it going to tip the other way where buyers say, all right, well, forget it. I'm just going to buy because the reality is interest rates are what they are, and there's just not as many homes for sale. When I see this trending upward, it does get me a little alarmed. We'll see how it trends going into the next few months, into the end of this quarter, beginning of next quarter. As you can see historically in here, let me recalculate this with just 1 month. It's a little easier to digest the information. Hopefully, you can see that the trend lines run pretty similar. And typically, from what we see, supply drops throughout the first and second quarter, then it rises at the end of the year. The reports only let us go back 5 years now, but you can see even pre-pandemic, same thing. Supply was dropping. It kind of bottomed out here. So, in terms of months of supply in July for 2019, for instance, then it rose to the end of the year, and it just continues to typically do that. It's kind of like an inverted bell curve, I guess you could say. So let's see what supply does into March, into April. You can see supply was very low in March of last year for Davidson County, 2.6 months of supply, 2.7 months of supply. I don't expect it to get down that low again in March. We'll see. It might, I might be shocked. I mean, you can see it's a pretty substantial drop from January into March last year, where it went from, gosh, almost 5 months of supply to 2.6. But one of the reasons why I say that is if I'm looking at market inventory and I see, well, actually, let's look at market activity and we look at new listings. You can see just for Davidson County, 932 new listings hit the market in February. Um, that's just a little bit less than what we saw in February of last year. So to me, that's a very similar trend line. 50 homes in a county the size of Davidson County is almost, I mean, gosh, that's almost negligible. That's 5%. I know it's something to pay attention to, but my point being, especially when I see, well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, January 24 is lower, pretty substantially lower than 23 as well. It's 10% less. So I guess, long story short, we'll see how the market continues to develop into the next couple of months. It does make me scratch my head a little bit as I see, months of supply rising, even though inventory here is you can see it's not hitting the market with the same rate that we saw over the last 12 months ago. So I guess we'll just see how that goes. One last thing that I want to take a look at is just simply pricing trends. Um, let's just look at median close price, and let's get a little tighter on the numbers. So this is the median sales price to close price ratio. Again, I've got Davidson County pulled up. Um, excuse me, not ratio, median sales price. And you can see it, median sales price is just under 500,000, 497. Compare that to last year, last February, 457. That's a pretty substantial increase. I mean, just doing the quick mental math, that's 8%, roughly 8 to 9% higher than it was this time last year. It's obviously increased tremendously from January. When we look at ratios and we see, like, say, median list to sales price, That's, gosh, almost 100% for February here, 99.59%. An increase over last year, although last year was very similar, 99.3%. Um, increase from January, which was just under 99%. This is all showing me this is an extreme, not, I shouldn't say extreme, but this is a strong seller's market. Again, it's almost like I'm seeing two trend lines, which just make me scratch my head a little bit. Seeing months of supply go up, but seeing this go up as well, this kind of makes me go, gosh, are we just continuing to get into the Wild West in terms of there's just nothing out there for sale? Market inventory will show us that. I mean, gosh, Davidson County, 1,700, little under 1,700 homes for sale. Compare it to this time last year, 1,500, or 1,450. That's a pretty good jump in terms of active inventory that's out there. Um, I had one other stat I wanted to look at. Oh, yes, it is days on market. I wanted to look at days on market for closed, and let's actually go back 3 years so we can get a real clear picture of just kind of how the market's changed since that flurry of activity in 21 and 22. You can see average or median, excuse me, days on market 15 for Davidson County last month. 2 weeks basically it should take for a home to sell. What this tells me, especially with the experience that what we saw here in 21 and 22, I mean, gosh, 2 days of on the market, but those the median time. Right here, 3 days. I mean, gosh, 2 to 3 days for a year, basically straight in that extreme sellers market that we saw, compared to now of a little bit more of a balanced market, still, still a seller's market here of what we're seeing. That 2 weeks, 15 days on the market, that tells me that if your home is sitting out there for sale, unless it's an outlier, unless it's a super luxury price point, but if you're anywhere near the median or average sales price for your county, that's at least for around here, that's telling me you're overpriced if you're sitting for more than 2 weeks. And that's just the reality of it. Um, we could see the same for other counties here as well. I'm just kind of curious since I've got it pulled up. We'll just pull up a handful. We'll pull up Williamson as well, which is the most expensive county around here. And let's pull up Rutherford, which is kind of that growing county that we saw before in terms of the low months of supply and inventory and all that. I mean, but while this calculates, it's just something to keep in mind as you're looking at if you're thinking about selling your home, that the reality is it shouldn't take forever to sell. Here's the interesting thing that I'm seeing. Williamson County, I mentioned, is that's a higher price point, and lo and behold, 28 days, 27 days, almost a full month on the market here for Williamson County. That's the highest it's been in the last 3 years. Even last year in January, where it kind of peaked, that was 25. That's an interesting thing to note, mainly probably because of the price point in Williamson. But the reality is, homes are sitting. Compare that to the others. I mean, Sumner 18 days, Wilson 16, Davidson 15. Rutherford's still at 14, so it's interesting that's not a little lower. I thought it might have been. Um, Point being, I mean, 2 weeks on the market is what you should expect, unless you're at that super high price point. Then it's going to be longer. Then the median days is going to be about a month. But 2 weeks is what it should take to sell a home. If you're curious about what your specific circumstance might look like, I know a lot of people out there may be thinking of moving, but then may also just kind of sit back because the market is just so unsure. It is making you go like this, kind of like what I'm doing as I'm looking at some of these stats and I'm seeing one thing say this and another thing say this. Just reach out. If you're getting this in your email, hit reply, ask your question. You can reach me at 615-238-7578. You can email me, rob@foliaproperties.com. It's ROB@FOGLIA properties.com. And let's chat. Let's just go over what it is that you're wanting to do. I'm never going to pressure somebody into doing something, especially in this type of market, because the reality is it might not make sense for you to move. But for those that either have to move for familial reasons or a job transfer or just some circumstance in life has changed and it's time to move, I still think there is opportunity, but we just have to make sure we follow the process the right way. We price your home correctly and we get it ready for sale. So reach out. Happy to help however I can. I appreciate y'all checking out this video. And until next time, be good to each other. See you soon. Bye.